Ephesus was designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2015. This place holds a position of great significance in terms of human history, architecture, and religion, going beyond just being an ancient city, historical and geographical value. The continuity of the city has persisted for thousands of years, from a Greek settlement in the 10th century BC through the Roman period to the Byzantine era. Especially during the Roman Empire, it was a major city rivaling Alexandria in Egypt as the capital of the Asia province. Decline of the port city. It was once a thriving port located at the mouth of the Kaystros River, but as sediment from the river buried the harbour, the city gradually moved inland. The reason the current ruins are separated from the sea is precisely due to this geographical change. The main structures we can see at the Ephesus ruins today are primarily concentrated from the Roman Empire period, 1st century BC to 2nd century AD. Ephesus has a history of thousands of years, but its golden age, which determined the city's physical landscape, was during the time when Rome ruled the area and made it the capital of the province of Asia. 1. Roman Empire period peak, 1st century AD to 2nd century AD. Most of the magnificent marble buildings that are now the core of Ephesus tourism were constructed or significantly expanded during this time. Major buildings: Celsus Library, completed in 117 AD, Great Theatre expanded in Roman style on a Hellenistic foundation, Temple of Hadrian, 2nd century AD, Terrace House luxury housing complex. Features: the entire city was paved with marble due to the strong capital and architectural technology of Rome, and it was a time when Roman urban infrastructure, such as public baths, flush toilets, and gyms, was completed. 2. Hellenistic Period, 3rd century BC, 1st century BC. After the death of Alexander the Great, his general Lysimachus moved the city to its current location, forming the basic framework of the city. Key features: the city walls surrounding the outskirts, the early structure of the Grand Theatre. Characteristics: many of the remaining Roman-era buildings are built on the foundations of the Hellenistic period. 3. Byzantine Empire period, 4th to 6th century AD. This is the period when the character of the city was restructured around religion after Christianity was legalized. Major buildings: St. John's Cathedral, St. Mary's Cathedral, Council Cathedral. Characteristics: the cathedrals were built using recycled stones from existing pagan temples, and the size of the city began to gradually shrink due to sedimentation in the harbour. I will analyse the 4 key criteria for listing Ephesus as a UNESCO World Heritage Site from a critical and professional perspective, focusing on its outstanding universal value, which is the core basis for its registration. 1. Criterion 2. Evidence of significant exchange of human values. Ephesus has served as a melting pot of cultural fusion, connecting Asia and Europe along the Mediterranean coast for thousands of years. Architectural exchange. It showcases a unique architectural style that combines Greek aesthetics, Roman engineering, and local traditions from Asia Minor. In particular, the facade of the Celsus Library shows the pinnacle of the splendid decorative art of Rome, combined with the spatial composition of the East. Urban planning. During the Hellenistic period, a grid road network Hippodamian plan was established by Lysimachus, which was expanded during the Roman era, completing the prototype of imperialistic urban planning. 2. Criterion 3. Unique evidence of a vanished civilization. Ephesus is a living archaeological textbook that can most perfectly restore the urban life of the ancient Greek-Roman era. Value of historical life. The terrace houses, which were residences of the nobility, preserve the murals, mosaics, and heating systems of the time, making them a globally rare example that proves the private living spaces of the ancient upper class. Fate of the port city. Due to the coastline being filled with sediment and the city being abandoned, paradoxically, ancient heritage was preserved intact, escaping large-scale destruction in the Middle Ages and modern development. 3. Criterion 4. A sample of architecture showing major stages in human history. Ephesus is densely populated with monumental buildings that symbolize specific eras. The Temple of Artemis, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It was the origin of monumental architecture and the largest tribute humanity has ever expressed towards the divine. Although it is now in ruins, its scale and design are significant milestones in the history of Western classical architecture. Roman public buildings. Structures such as the Great Theatre, Gymnasium, Baths, and the Bouleuterion, Council House vividly illustrate how the administrative and social systems of the Roman Empire were architecturally realized. 4. Criterion 6. The connection between faith and historical events. Ephesus was a place of immense religious influence. Christian holy sites. This includes the Church of St. John, believed to be the place where the Gospel of John was written and where the Apostle Paul's missionary activities took place, as well as the Church of the Virgin Mary, where the Council of Ephesus declared Mary as Theotokos, Mother of God, in 431. These sites hold historical significance as foundational places for Christianity. When evaluating the OUV of Ephesus, we must be cautious about the issue of authenticity of restoration. Reconstructed landscape. The current appearance of the Celsus Library and the Temple of Hadrian, which we admire today, is essentially the result of the anastylosis technique reassembly, using original fragments carried out by the Austrian Archaeological Institute in the 1970s. Selective preservation. UNESCO recognized that this restoration was based on archaeological evidence and granted OUV, but critically speaking, there is also the aspect that it selectively restored only the most splendid moments of the Roman era that tourists want to see. Challenges of preservation. The stress caused by rising sea levels, groundwater issues, and the load and humidity from millions of tourists each year are the most realistic threats that need to be addressed to maintain the OUV of Ephesus. Now, we have looked at Ephesus as a World Heritage Site. Let's take a closer look at the ruins. I plan to show it to you in this order. 아르테미스 신전으로 가는 길입니다. 이 길 옆에서 불법으로 복제된 에페소 안내 책자를 저렴하게 판매합니다. 한국어 번역이 좀 조잡합니다. 이제 그런 책들은 AI로 인해 쓸모가 없어졌지요. This under-construction tomb surprisingly turned out to be a relic from the 14th century. If it were in our country, it would have been treated with great care. But in Turkey, where ancient ruins are found everywhere, this level of site is managed so casually. Anyway, let me introduce it to you while I'm here. This is the sign for the Islamic period site, Tuğba tomb, near Ayasuluk Hill, which corresponds to the latest phase in the Ephesus region. This tomb was built during the late 14th century to early 15th century, during the reign of the Aydin dynasty that ruled this area. The tomb is accessed through a marble portal on the west side, and the main body is placed in the center of the floor. The exact owner of the tomb has not been identified, but due to the sophistication of the architecture and its monumental nature, it is presumed to have belonged to a member of the royal family or high nobility of the time. Looking at the drawing in the upper right corner, we can see that it is not just a simple room, but an expanded form that includes auxiliary spaces and a burial site. The photo of the tombstone in the lower right corner features geometric and botanical patterns, which well illustrate the characteristics of Seljuk and early Ottoman styles. This photo captures the site of the Temple of Artemis, which represents both the most brilliant starting point of Ephesus's history and, at the same time, its most futile end. Please pay attention to the one lonely column standing in the center of the photo. Originally, there were 127 massive Ionic columns, each reaching a height of 18 meters, lined up in this spot. It was the largest marble structure of its time, more than twice the size of the Parthenon. In fact, that pillar is not even the original. It is a modern reconstruction of the scattered drum segments that were around, and it has been restored to a height lower than the original. At the top of the pillar, it is a symbolic landscape of Ephesus, where storks occasionally build their nests. The reason the floor in the photo looks low and damp is that this area used to be a lowland, near a port connected to the sea. As sediment from the Kaystros River accumulated, the temple gradually became submerged in a swamp, leaving it in the desolate basin we see today. As this temple became a wetland and was destroyed, the people of Ephesus moved their center to what we commonly know as the ancient city of Ephesus, Roman period area. Behind the pillar, the walls of St. John's Cathedral and the silhouette of Ayasuluk Castle can be seen on the hill. I will translate the contents of the sign. 1. Three-tier analysis of the temple. The diagram in the upper left shows that this place is not just a single building, but an architectural layering that has accumulated over time. Early structure. The smallest square at the innermost part represents the early form from around the 8th century BC. Temple of Croesus, 6th century BC. A large temple sponsored by Croesus, the king of Lydia, which marked the beginning of the use of marble. Hellenistic temple after 4th century BC. This temple was rebuilt after the arson by Herostratus. The blueprint of the signboard distinguishes this multi-layered foundation structure by color and line, showing how archaeologists determined the era. 2. Archaeological excavation photo. The black and white photo in the center shows the structure of the Nyskos small shrine at the time of excavation. This area is the most sacred center of the temple cellar, where the statue of the goddess Artemis was placed. The sign explains how this foundation was supported in the marshy area. According to ancient records Pliny, the engineering secret proven here was the use of charcoal and wool laid on the ground to act as a buffer to prevent subsidence in the swampy area. 3. Details of the columns and carved columns. Columnae caelatae. In the restoration drawing at the top right, you can see unique features that differ from typical temple columns. Lower column sculpture. The most notable feature of the columns of the Temple of Artemis is that life-sized relief sculptures were carved at the very bottom of the columns. This is referred to as columnae caelatae. These pieces are currently housed in the British Museum, and the sign visually supplements the fact that the plain column in the photo was originally a magnificent artwork from the bottom up. 4. change in architectural style. This place contains specific records that marble from here served as materials for Byzantine structures like St. John's Cathedral and Hagia Sophia, acting as a stone supply depot. Now, let's officially set off to the ancient city of Ephesus. This sign is the complete restoration map of the ancient city of Ephesus that you will encounter near the southern upper entrance of the Ephesus archaeological site. The main road that runs from the bottom to the top in the photo is not flat, but has a gentle slope. The Romans designed their water supply and drainage systems to flow naturally along this slope. Embatos and Curites Street. The long line that crosses the centre of the map is the main axis of Ephesus, upper southern area. This is the administrative centre with the city hall, Prytanion, and the Odeon Theatre, lower northern area. This is the economic centre with the harbour, the Grand Theatre, and the commercial agora. The sign visually shows that Curites Street, which connects these two areas, serves as the backbone of the city. 매표를 하고 들어갑니다. 2026년 현재 에페소 고대 도시 통합 입장료는 95유로니까 15만 원 정도입니다. 비싸네요. 유적의 위치가 표시된 안내판입니다. These are the milestones taken near the Magnesia Gate, the starting point of the Ephesus trip. It is similar to today's street signs. It was an element of the Roman road network that indicated distances between cities, helping armies and merchants move efficiently. During the Roman Republic, a unit called millia passuum was used. This means 1,000 paces, and corresponds to about 1.48 kilometers today. In the Hellenistic period, stadia, about 185 meters, was also used. The most interesting aspect of the artifact in the photo is the red Greek inscription overlaying the Roman milestone. The clearly visible or Iesus Nika means Jesus Christ conquers. Originally, this stone was a secular milestone, engraved with the name of a Roman emperor and the distance. However, after Christianity was recognized during the Byzantine era, it recycled the legacy of Rome and inscribed a declaration of Christian victory upon it. The Romans filled the letter grooves with red paint to make the inscriptions more visible. It is astonishing that traces of this remain even thousands of years later. If you look closely at the sign, you'll find some interesting facts. Since it was costly to carve a new stone every time a new emperor ascended the throne, they often recycled existing milestones by flipping them over and engraving new content. It describes the harbour gymnasium, corresponding to number 13 on the map, and its associated facility, the Halls of Verilanus. This place is one of the largest complexes in Ephesus, and I will analyse the key figures and architectural features from a professional perspective. 1. The total area of the largest complex facility in Ephesus is about 70,000 square metres, making it one of the largest facilities in the entire Roman Empire at that time. This complex is not just a gym, but a combination of large baths and a palestra. The large rectangle marked in orange on the left diagram of the signboard is the playground area. Berulanus Portico. This refers to the three-sided corridor that surrounds the playground. During the 2nd century AD, it was named after Claudius Berulanus, the high priest of Ephesus, who adorned it lavishly with marble. 2. The well-being centre function of the ancient city. The ancient Ephesians would wash off their sweat in the bathhouse right next to where they exercised, such as running and wrestling. The wide central plaza was planted with trees, serving as a resting place for citizens, much like a modern park. Archaeological evidence. Apocryphos. Please pay attention to the photo of the bronze statue at the bottom right of the information board. This is an image of an athlete using a tool called strigil to scrape sweat and dirt off their body. This is a very famous statue that symbolises this place as a sports facility currently housed in the Vienna Ephesus Museum. 3. Construction period and history of destruction. It began during the reign of Emperor Domitian at the end of the 1st century AD and was completed in the early 2nd century. Reconstruction. It was destroyed by a major earthquake around 350 AD, but as mentioned on the sign, it was restored afterwards. This shows that Ephesus made efforts to maintain its public functions until the early Byzantine period. Looking at the landscape behind the sign, you can see that unlike the splendid urban area such as the library, there is dense weeds and desolation. This area is a lowland, right next to the ancient harbour. As you saw earlier at the Temple of Artemis, the harbour has been filled in, and this massive gym complex has turned into wetlands and swamps. This is the harbour road, and the area connected to the harbour of Ephesus at its end. The harbour of Ephesus was a key transshipment point that drove the economic prosperity of Ephesus. In the 2nd century BC, the first artificial structure was established by King Attalus II of Pergamon, and the form we see today was completed through the construction activities of the early Roman Empire. Around the harbour bay, there were warehouses lined up, and there were 3 massive monumental gates connecting the harbour to the inner city. From the 3rd century AD onwards, the harbour and the sea were connected through canals. The characteristic of this canal is that it was surrounded by graves on both sides. Currently, due to sedimentation, the sea has receded, and the area that used to be a port now resembles a lush wetland, as seen in the photo. Harbour Road, Arcadian Street, Harbour Street. The long marble road is the Harbour Road that connected the port to the Ephesus theatre. It was the first gateway that visitors arriving by ship from overseas encountered when entering the city. It was decorated very lavishly to showcase the city's status. The road is about 11 metres wide, and on both sides of the road there were colonnades adorned with magnificent Corinthian columns. According to historical records, this road was known to be one of the few streets in the Roman era that had street lighting facilities, which were lit by torches even at night. The Hellenistic fountain house was first built during the Hellenistic period, around the 3rd to 1st century BC. Afterwards, during the Roman period around the 2nd century AD, renovations such as expanding the front were carried out. It is located in the northwestern corner of the Great Theatre of Ephesus. Originally, it was a D-shaped, pie-shaped building with Ionic columns, and it had a cistern for storing water inside. It is estimated that water flowed out through the 3 lion head-shaped drains. The column of this fountain is inscribed with the Greek phrase "ek tou marnandos," from the Maranus River. This is important archaeological evidence, indicating that water was drawn from the Maranus River, located about 6 kilometers away, through an aqueduct. In terms of demonstrating the public water resource management system of the city, it has high academic value. The Great Theatre. The Great Theatre of Ephesus is not a structure completed in a single period, but a complex building that has undergone expansions and renovations over several centuries. Hellenistic Period, 3rd century BC to 1st century BC. The first theatre structures were formed. It took on the typical Greek theatre form, utilising the slope of the mountain Mount Pion to arrange the seats. Early Roman Empire, 1st century AD to 2nd century AD. Large-scale expansion projects were carried out during the reigns of the Roman emperors Domitian, AD 81 to 96, and Trajan, AD 98 to 117. At this time, the stage building was expanded with a magnificent facade rising from the 2nd to the 3rd floor. Late Roman and Byzantine, 4th to 7th century AD. In the late Roman period, it was used not only for theatre, but also as an arena for gladiatorial games. Before the 7th century, it was incorporated as part of the Byzantine city walls for defence. This theatre is considered one of the largest in the ancient world, boasting a capacity of up to 25,000 people. The seating area cavea was carved out of the natural slope of Mount Pion and is shaped like a horseshoe, slightly wider than a semicircle. It is divided into 3 sections, with the slope becoming steeper as it rises, allowing the audience in the back to see the stage well. The orchestra is a semicircular space between the stage and the audience. Initially, it was a place for choirs to perform, but as it transitioned to the Roman era, the floor structure was changed to accommodate dynamic events such as gladiatorial games and beast hunts. The stage building Skyny Frons is the part marked in orange on the blueprint in the centre of the sign. A magnificent marble wall, about 18 metres high and 3 stories tall, stood adorned with numerous statues and columns. Currently, only the lower structure and some columns remain. The Ephesus Theatre served not just as a performance venue, but also fulfilled a central social function in the city, political assembly. It was the place where the Ephesian Citizens' Assembly was held. Cultural arts, tragedy and comedy performances, as well as music competitions, were regularly held. Site of religious conflict. According to the Bible Acts 19, it is also famous as the place where silversmiths opposing the Apostle Paul's evangelistic activities caused a riot, shouting, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians!" As indicated in the lower right corner of the sign, restoration and preservation projects have been carried out centered around the Austrian Archaeological Institute. It remains the most impressive landmark within the Ephesus ruins, and even in modern times, it maintains excellent acoustic conditions, occasionally hosting classical performances and operas. Details of the architecture and construction of the seating area. The shape of the seating area on the floor plan has an angle of approximately 215 degrees. Even today, the lower tier can clearly be seen divided into 11 wedge-shaped sections, while the middle and upper tiers are each divided into 22 sections. The structure of the seating area is composed of multiple levels. First, the lower seat structure and radial stairs were constructed. After that, the substructure was covered with white marble finishing blocks. In areas with slopes, large grey marble blocks or red breccia blocks were used to form the substructure. In some sections of the viewing area, the natural rock formations of Paniadar provided the necessary height, so the rock is located just below the marble finishing. The spectator area that does not rely on the slope is placed on a substructure system made of opus caementicium, Roman concrete. The slope varies for each row of seats, becoming steeper as you move up from the center. After the expansion during the Roman era, the circulation within the spectator area was organized through well-planned corridors. From the north and south, visitors can reach the lower two diazoma, horizontal corridors, through the wide, barrel vault-shaped corridors vomitoria. Additionally, access to the lower row is possible via the stairs extending from the western facade. The southern facade features monumental external stairs that connect the corridors. The northern facade likely experienced a similar situation, but the outer wall of the theatre currently in this area is obscured by collapsed debris. During the Roman era, as the theatre was expanded, a waterway was also constructed beneath the seating area. This waterway stretches 40 kilometers and is part of the Claudius-Aristian Canal, also known as the Kaystros Canal. Along with other aqueducts, this aqueduct supplied water to the Trajan's Fountain, built in AD 114. Today, in the middle seating section of the viewing area, you can see changes in the structural materials at the 8th tier, which indicate the path of the aqueduct. 1. Aerial photograph of the theatre. 2. The appearance of the theatre in 1957. 3. A portrait sculpture of Emperor Lysimachus I. 4. Gladiator relief. Photo N. Gale, Austrian Archaeological Institute, OAI.